Hello believers, and welcome back. I'm just leaning out of my window, soaking up a bit of Leith bird song. Actually sounds quite industrial actually, it's more David Lynch than David Attenborough, but you get the idea. It's a different kind of episode of Believe Me this time. Today's guest is the stand-up circuit regular, fishmonger and kitchen sink absurdist Darren Maskell. Very sadly, and suddenly 2 weeks after recording this chat with me, Darren died following a long battle with a number of illnesses. Since his passing, comedians and members of the UK comedy scene have praised how generous and kind and imaginative Darren was as a performer and how supportive he was as a comedy fan. Darren started performing stand-up in 2008 and was named North Essex New Act of the Year a year later. He then made the final of the Laughing Horse New Act competition in 2011. Alongside this, Darren produced 2 series of his podcasts called Defenders of the Universe, asking comedian guests to defend various things, which I was very pleased to be asked to do a couple of years back. At one point, Darren even put himself forward to be immortalised as a statue in Croydon, and he came fourth in that public poll. I spoke to some of Darren's close friends when I heard the news about him, and they told me that he didn't speak much about his troubles, but he preferred to laugh and joke with his friends, and that's certainly the case when we spoke. One of my favourite memories of Darren is performing with him in the Weirdos pantomime production of Hook, where he played Smee. And then us laughing together in an Edinburgh pub upstairs, watching the brilliantly lewd comedy music institution that is Cunt of the Gang. I'm sure Darren, well, actually he probably would have liked how awkward this intro is, but, I don't need to make it any more awkward than it already is. So, with his family's blessing, today's episode is a tribute to Darren, featuring the chat we did and some clips of some of the things he created. In the chat, Darren talks about growing up in Croydon, being a fishmonger, his trademark coat hanger routine, customer service, anxiety, AI film posters, zombies, True Detective, and we talk a bit about the X-Files too. It's impossible to condense everything that's wonderful about someone in an hour-long podcast, but I hope this goes some way to showing you an insight into what made Darren a great person to be around. So with lots of love, here's our chat, and I'll see you next time. Do you know in the flesh? I don't know, but I really enjoyed doing your podcast, Defenders of the Universe.
Oh, the Universe, yeah.
That's the last time I think we chatted, and that was mid-lockdown or early lockdown, I think.
Oh, right, so not that long ago.
No, but I couldn't tell you face to face. I think maybe Machynlleth Festival in Wales, maybe.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I totally lose track of time. I don't know. It all feels like 2000 to me now. And someone in the office the other day said, I've been listening to this great old band, and it turned out to be the Strokes. Where were you raised?
I was born in a place called Carshalton, which is like a southwest-ish London on the suburbs kind of thing. Not really famous for anything other than the band Mud were from there. Remember Mud?
Oh, yeah, Tiger Feet.
Tiger Feet, yeah.
I do. Well, I don't. A bit before my time. Like the Strokes.
Yeah, the Strokes, yeah.
Back in the day. So is that Carshalton Beaches then? Or is that a different place?
No, that's a different place.
Oh,
There's certainly no beaches in Carshalton.
Yeah.
And so I was there till 5. And then from 5, I moved out with my sister and my mother, and we moved to Croydon, and I was pretty much Croydon based from then onwards.
Right.
So subjected to every shit open mic spot, gag about a shit town being Croydon.
Is it shit? Is it shit though? Or I've been to Croydon a couple of times, It doesn't seem any worse than anywhere else I've been.
That's the thing. Everywhere in England has a nice place and a shit place.
Yeah.
And it's just the same as any other town. There's nice places and there's good places. There's really nice places in Wimbledon. There's really shit places in Wimbledon.
Yes, right.
Croydon just got a bad name because it was missold to a lot of the commuters to London as it was really close to London by train.
Yeah.
And the property was cheaper. But it wasn't worth the short commute.
Right, okay.
Technically, you can get a train from East Croydon to the centre of London in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think, oh, that's quite good. But you don't no one lives at East Croydon or near the East Croydon station.
Right.
You've still got a commute to East Croydon station, which is about an hour from anywhere.
Yes. Yeah, right. Very clever of them to say that, isn't it? What was your experiences then of growing up, and where were you sort of hanging out growing up, and did any of that sort of influence your decision to get into comedy? I imagine it might have done. But
my school was in like a suburb of Croydon called Shirley, where mostly you'd see 16-year-olds on mopeds,
right,
hanging out chippies. Quite a leafy suburb, like quite well to do, but the kids wouldn't want you to know that.
Sure.
But I lived near central Croydon, so I wasn't actually close to any of my school friends. I actually lived above a pub because that's what my mum's job was. She managed a pub. She was a publican.
Right.
And so my whole existence was coming home from school, going upstairs of the pub, playing Sim, Roller Coaster Tycoon,
yes,
and then watching cable TV until midnight. Because like my mum worked until midnight, and I had the whole flat to myself because everyone else was working. We had cable, and there was a channel on there called Paramount Comedy. It's when channels used to overlap each other.
Yeah.
Like when the kids channel stopped at 7, and then it went on to, I don't want to say adult viewing like that kind of adult, but more tailored to adults.
I think there's a lot to be said. The new generation of people grew up with the TV as a babysitter, and I think they've all gone on to great things. So what you're sat upstairs in the pub watching all this American stand-up stuff, and was that the sort of, I mean, at what point did you think to yourself, oh, I'll go down a local open mic and do a bit?
I never really wanted to do any of that. I thought it was quite daring and daunting to try and do something like that. I was quite shy. It wasn't until I went to university, I studied documentary filmmaking.
Yes.
And for your graduation piece, you had to you could do a drama or documentary, but as it's very limited to what your means are, I thought I could just do a documentary, and if it looks shit, it's meant to look shit.
Right.
So I thought I'd look into what kind of person or personality would go into stand-up comedy. And so I just went to open mics, see who was there. I just picked someone out of random and made a film about him. And it turns out the guy that I picked, he didn't really want to be a stand-up, but his dad really wanted him to be a stand-up. And so he kept going because he just wanted this for his dad. But he himself, he wanted to be a DJ, and you could see like he had all these gears set up in the his bedroom, and you could see he's really passionate about being a DJ. And when he was doing the stand-up, he was quite disheartened, and because it wasn't going anywhere, and he didn't have a passion to really push it. But he had the passion to try and make something for himself so he could make his dad proud. So I think that's one aspect of why some people do it. They don't necessarily have a passion for the stand-up, but they just wanting to prove themselves to other people, no matter what that passion is.
Your first comedian this evening, Mr. Martin Boris. Give him a big round of applause there. There you go.
1, 2.
There you go.
Testing.
I didn't decide. My dad decided for me. He thought it'd be a good idea for me to go and take the stage and make people laugh. If I didn't know you and you come up to me and you said, "What do you do?" I'd say, "Oh, I'm a ground worker." Straight away, because that is what I do. It pays the bills. So that's my job. So it doesn't define who I am. But if they say, "Oh, what do you do?" and I say I'm a ground worker, 8 out of 10 is, "What's that?" And then I have to explain my shit job, and I hate explaining my shit job because that's what it's gone down to. Oh, it's a shit job. End of conversation.
Hi everyone.
I mean, is that true of you then? Is that partly the reason why you did it, as a sort of challenge to yourself?
Well, I my reasoning was after university, I kind of was a bit despondent and bitter because I realised that going into the media industry wasn't going to be viable for me, because you've either got to know someone already in the industry to give you that first step on the rung of the ladder, because the only people that got jobs in my class afterwards were people that had family already in the industry, and I don't have this type of personality that really thrives at networking and the type of personality you need to progress in that industry. And so I just fell back into what I already knew, and I'd already been working in supermarkets all my life up until then. So I just fell back into that.
Yeah.
If you work in the service industry, especially in this country, it is a lot of being bullied by the public.
Right, okay.
I think it's gotten worse nowadays. We're in such trying times. People just go in to the supermarket and their customer is God.
Sure.
A lot of the businesses portray that because they want the custom. They tell you that we'll give you the world, but we're only paying peanuts.
Yeah, right.
For these workers. So I was quite, I felt quite bullied every time I was at work by people just not being polite at all. I didn't have a creative outlet at the time. That was kind of getting me down. And so I thought about doing stand-up. And it was the only kind of thing that you do get treated, if you do well, like people would admire you.
Yeah.
For just telling jokes.
Yeah.
And that whole process of taking something that you created from nothing and it being reacted to by the audience as they like it.
Yeah.
And you've done that yourself. That was the appeal for me.
I guess as well, it's the public there as well. It's other people, but you're in a relative position of power because you're the one controlling the room.
Yeah.
So you've gone from somewhere where the public are in charge of you, and now you flip that, and you were saying, "No, listen to me, because what I've got to say is important." There. So what was did you used to do this? Because I was looking back at your old stuff, and I was watching the coat hanger stuff.
So what's the best way of me introducing you to Darren Maskell?
It's my favourite hanger. It's a good hanger. I put my work shirt on the top and my work trousers on the bottom. It's my least favourite hanger.
And then, so when did the fish stuff come in? Because I always remember we associate you with, like, is that right? They used to do some stuff about being on the fish counter.
Yeah, because I worked on the fish counter.
Yes, right.
In some of the in some of the supermarkets. I also worked on the fish counter in Selfridges.
Yeah, right. Serious.
Yeah. If you want pointless jobs, you got to think about a fish counter set up in Selfridges where 90% of the customers are on holiday. So they're there just to look at the fish counter. Do you want some fish? No, I've got nowhere to cook it in my hotel. So
yeah, just something nice to look at, I guess, isn't it? An array of Gurnard or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But the other thing about that job was people coming into Selfridges and complaining about the prices. And I'm like, do you know where you are?
Yeah.
You're in Oxford Street, possibly the most wealthy part of the wealthiest city in the world, in a high-end retailer. It's not going to compete with Waitrose, let alone Tesco's. Listen up, y'all, 'cause this is it. The fish that I'm battering is delicious. Maskalicious definition, fishmonger by trade. Women want my fishes, fishes even get me laid. Got my scaler, my inhaler, I'm a trader, fish invader. On my counter I don't flounder, a pretty girl and I just served her. Maskalicious, so delicious and quite nutritious. And if you were suspicious, the Gurnard looks quite vicious, it's my fishes. I put them fish on ice. The mackerel's very nice, good value, half price, so delicious. Tuna steak, it's so delicious. Why not try some hake? So delicious. They want a taste of my skate. I'm maskalicious. I'm tasty.
And then did you just start gigging regularly or doing that sort of open mic circuit after then? Did you?
Yeah, just like, I wouldn't say regular. I think 3 a week was the most I ever really did.
Yeah.
Because I was working like 12 hours a day at one point, standing on my feet all day, and so
less stand up, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you went because that video I watched of the coat hanger stuff, that was up in Edinburgh. So was that always like a thing?
I came up with that joke just before I did Edinburgh 2010.
Yeah.
That changed my persona on stage. I became a lot more subdued.
Right.
Before that, I was quite hyperactive and like a child, really.
Yeah.
But I think that made me slow down with my delivery a lot. I was never gotten over being nervous before I go on stage. I'd like be twisting knots before every show because I'd be like, why am I doing this? I really didn't enjoy performing most of the times, but I still did it because I wanted to get the audience to what I'd created. I mean, I think I prefer writing for someone else more than I would performing it myself.
Yeah, I guess it's immediate, isn't it? That's what drew me to it, is the immediacy of coming up with something and then that night being able to communicate it with the crowd. At what point did you scale down gigging then? And what was the process behind that? Did you just think you'd sort of made peace with it, or you got to a natural point where you went, I've kind of feel like I've done with this now?
I think it was around 2015, and I think a lot of comics at that time, like professional comics, were saying how difficult it was to make any kind of living with comedy. Even like the big names had to do a variety of things as well as stand up. And I knew my kind of, I was never going to achieve anything above a certain level in comedy just with my stand-up, let alone doing other things. I thought I'm kind of need to be realistic with myself that I'm not going to progress to professional, and it's getting a lot physically with me with doing open mics, because that was kind of the boom of a lot of people trying out stand-up for the first time. So open mics again, a lot more busier, and it's getting harder to get stage time. There's only so much open mic comedy that you can watch without it being quite defeating on your soul.
Yeah.
I'm not saying myself that I was any better, but if you've got to watch me, I've got to watch you, really. So
yes, that's it, isn't it? The sort of need to stay around and watch 15 acts and be there at like 12 at night.
Actually, one of my last few gigs was a brilliant night called Paul the Other One. It's run by Martin Sohn, and I did the gig, and I went home straight afterwards, and then someone did a write-up about it, and they said, I think it had Oram and Meaton. Do you know that double act?
Oh, yes.
Steve Oram and Tom Meaton. They're quite successful actors now, but they've got a really good double act. They were on Phil Jupitus, Lindsay Sharman, and myself, and Martin Sohn. And they did a write-up about it, saying they thought it was like one of the best gigs that they'd ever seen.
Right.
And I thought to myself, was it that good?
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, it actually was quite a good gig.
So where has the last couple of years for you been? And then have you found another creative process as an outlet, since you moved away from comedy?
Yeah, because I moved from Croydon to Swindon, because my parents moved to Swindon, and I didn't feel like being homeless quite until this. So I moved with them, and unfortunately had an anxiety attack at work, because I'd only lived in Croydon my whole life and experienced life in the service industry within London. And then when I got to Swindon, I was so shocked that people were nice.
Right.
And everywhere I was going, people were polite, happy to see you, would compliment you on what work you did. And I think I must have got imposter syndrome, because then I'd never had a panic attack before, and I don't really like using the word attack, because that would assume that I would think I was losing my breath or freaking out, like in some kind of distress. But for me, it was, I just lose all the feeling in my muscles, felt like blood had drained from me, and have a sense of dread. I could only get rid of it if I knew that nothing was expected of me. And so I eventually had to give up my work, because I needed to go to counselling for this, because it wasn't stopping. I can't remember a lot that was said in counselling, but I do remember something that made me smile. The counsellor, she was like in her late 50s, like, if you can imagine, like a grey-haired woman in a Senecot advert.
Right. Yeah. You painted a picture there, yeah.
Silver Fox husband giving her a cuddle from the back. And she said to me, do you listen to music? And I said, yeah, I listen to music. She says, my favourite band is Rage Against the Machine.
Yes.
And I thought that was so peculiar that a counsellor would have their favourite band as Rage Against the Machine. It was so out of left field, and I couldn't think of anything for the rest of the day.
That's wonderful.
I would have said Dillinger Escape Plan before thinking of Rage Against the Machine. I would have never got that.
Yeah, that's great. I can sort of see it now. You know, it's kind of palatably heavy, isn't it? And its modus operandi is channeled, aggro. I quite like that. It's the sort of thing that a sort of a 12-year-old would put on really loud to just irritate their parents. You know, I appreciate that. So did Rage Against the Machine aside, has that helped, that counselling process? Do you feel that's helped you?
Yeah, it definitely helped just talking about it. I managed to get on top of that, and thankfully enough, I've not had any feelings like that again since it.
Yeah, are you? So I mean, when you were sort of performing, where would you say your sort of ideas were coming from? Would they just pop into your head?
Oh, my crazy ideas.
Yeah,
crazy ideas. I think a lot of my ideas were I really like the mundane things of British culture. So I like Mike Leigh films and Fred Dibner and stuff like that. And I just enjoy experiencing those whims and curiosities, but explaining them in a unique and fresh way. For instance, my hanger joke that you're saying, that is just an observational joke about how people preference hangers. And I could say, well, isn't it weird how people preference these certain hangers? Do you ever notice that? But I do it in a way that is less obvious.
Yeah.
And so I like to give the audience the benefit of the doubt that they'll know that's the joke without having to hit them over the head with a frying pan.
I can see you doing that as well, though.
Yeah. I always think the best jokes are like magic, whereas you're distracting them over here with one hand and then giving them the punchline with the other hand.
Yeah. And
then their reward is them deconstructing the joke after it's been presented to them.
Yes, sure.
If you give the audience a joke that they feel that they've deconstructed themselves, it's more rewarding for them rather than something obvious.
Yeah.
That's laid out.
Handed on a platter, yeah. No, I can see that, yeah. Thank you for taking time out of your whatever you were watching to slot in an X-Files episode.
I'm watching True Detective at the moment.
Are you? Yes, I'm watching that as well. What do you reckon to that?
It was all right so far.
Yeah, I'm on that page as well.
It's a long time since the other ones were broadcast, and I can't even remember if I like them.
Yeah, it feels already stretched. Like they could have wrapped this up in 2 hours, and now we've got another 3 episodes. And Jodie Foster's fantastic, and I like the horror elements, but certainly the 3rd episode felt very flat, and like there was quite a bit of filler in it. But I don't know. Maybe it's going to kind of crescendo.
Jodie Foster's lost her lips, I think, being in that cold climate. Hey, English, please.
And it'll look too much CGI as well. I know you've got to think about that. You can't corral a load of deer.
Oh, someone pointed out that there was a scene in one of the miners' bedrooms, and they'd put AI created posters in his bedroom.
Yes.
I don't know why they did it. It seemed really lazy to do that.
Yeah, I was speaking to someone about this the other day, because the offending poster looks a bit like a Kiss poster, like the band have got Kiss makeup on, but the band name just says Metal. So you just see it, the guy's sat on the bed, and then it's a shot behind him. And I think there was something that Issa Lopez, who's the showrunner and the writer director, said it was feeding into this kind of nightmarish, unrealistic kind of. Yeah, that's what I thought. It didn't really ring true to me. And there's other ways to do things that aren't using AI and CGI, and those, like that kind of army of deers or reindeer at the beginning just looked rubbish. And you could, I know it's difficult to kind of wrangle a herd of reindeers in this day and age, and
let alone throw them off.
Have to think about
a cliff.
Yeah, but they could have shot that in a different way, and I thought the polar bear looked a bit daft. But having said that, the kind of more thingy elements where you've got these fused bodies and all that, I quite like all that. But yeah, it's just a bit that meandering, isn't it now? Anyway, this is an X-Files podcast, not a True Detective podcast. So this is season 1, episode 2, Born Again. It's essentially about reincarnation, this episode, and it starts with a bit of casual misogyny from a couple of male police officers aimed towards a female police officer. She wanders outside and sees a little girl, about 8-year-old, sat on the street, brings her in, asks her if she's okay, asks her what her name is, and she said her name's Michelle, and she's got this kind of blank stare. And the male officer, who was being casually misogynistic, pops in, tries to get some more information out of her, and then he's promptly blown out of a window and falls to his death, 10 stories below, and then we get the credits. So that's the kind of setup for this. I will precursor this chat by saying it's one of David Duchovny's least favourite episodes. So he really despised it. But what do you think about it, Darren?
The episode before it is the masterpiece that is Tombs.
Yes.
So we were given that piece of masterpiece, and then what do we get presented afterwards? One of the tropes of the phenomenon that I hate the most, and that is the trope of the scary child that has some kind of telekinesis power.
Yeah.
And we know she's got some creepy power because we see her mid-shot with an angry, stony face and some scary music.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be scared about that. It's never scary to see a child stony face with a bit of menace in her eyes. And it just bores me to tears, that kind of plot line.
Yeah, and it's quite a complex plot line, isn't it, when you get into...
Oh, it's too complex as well. The ghost, we're not convinced, is it a ghost? Because she says she sees the man, but then there's other things that make you think she's possessed.
Yeah, I think it's I wonder if it is possession, and she is just... Well, I don't know. He doesn't explain. There's a lot of X-Files do this, where it's like, don't worry about that. We're moving on. You're going to hang on a minute.
Yeah. Also, the ghost, his partners kill him, and he's acting on revenge. But one of the guys that killed him then goes on to marry the dead guy's wife.
Yeah.
Why didn't he stop the guy from marrying his wife? He's like, he's just marrying my wife. I'll let him off with that. I'll wait until he does something else until I act my revenge.
Yeah, there's a few sort of tropes in there. I mean, they do mention Tombs, actually, because I've totally forgot it was a episode after Tombs. And at the beginning, the female police officer who's played by...
Oh, Janice.
Let's get Maggie Wheeler. Yeah, Janice from Friends, who apparently was going out with Duchovny at the time. They were an item. So I don't know if that's why Duchovny can't watch it anymore. too many bad memories. But so she's like, she says, "Oh, well, we brought you on because we've heard you did so well in that Tombs case." And there are some kind of, it's just like a checklist of bad cliches. It's like Mulder goes to speak to Michelle, psychiatrist, and she's got a load of dolls in the wardrobe, but it's basically like, it's a mangled doll that's lost an eye, and what did the bad man do to you? And it's all a bit like, I know, like the idea of psychiatry was just coming in the sort of 90s, and so was the idea of origami as well, because Mulder has to explain what origami is at one point. But it did feel a bit like we're ticking off a few tropes here and trying to kind of overcompensate for the fact that it's just a bit of a bland story, and we'd already done Shadows. That was the Poltergeist one, and you've got this, like, the bent coppers.
But also, if I was Mulder and Scully and I was assigned to this case, I'd be like, weren't we supposed to be the guys that check out like weird, unexplainable things? And it seemed like it could be a normal police case could have been done with this, like, because it was essentially a homicide and just didn't feel very weird.
Yeah,
they needed to bring in the FBI.
Yeah, they'd actually do some detective work in it as well, because there's a bit with Mulder and Scully sat in a room with a load of photos out, and that's the first time I've really seen them actually thinking about a case and looking like investigators rather than just having a kind of supernatural hunch. So I kind of quite like that, but it just did not deliver as a kind of creepy. It didn't deliver on a creepy front, didn't deliver on a thrilling front. I mean, I quite like the bus death.
No, I'll tell you what does deliver.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what does deliver. Tombs, he eats livers.
Hey, lovely stuff. He's back. You just can't switch it off. That's the thing, you know. You bury it deep down, but it's there. See, that could be a TikTok. What was the thing you used to do? Maskell Secrets.
Maskell Secrets. Oh yeah.
Maskell Secrets with you doing a hush to your mouth, and I think Maskell Secrets needs to come back in some shape or form. But yeah, it was, you know, and then we sort of get to the sort of payoff where it's like they send the poor Michelle kid in for like hypnosis, isn't it, or something, and then because there's a kind of electromagnetic energy around it, which she's apparently, when Scully does an autopsy, there's like a electric burn mark on the dead body of the police officer. If the kid goes near any TVs or anything, there's some kind of interference. So she starts seeing this like diver on the screen, and then that's the sort of payoff at the end where the guy's been drowned in a fish tank, and you're a bit like, oh God, this is really like pulling teeth. I don't think anybody liked it. I don't think Chris Carter didn't like it. It was quite sloppy. You know, everybody sort of distanced themselves from it. But you know, they can't all be bangers. I quite like the 90s computer identikit as well. That's pretty good. Yeah, they wheeled out. They always wheel out a kind of computer expert, and that was quite fun. But no, not up there with the best of the X-Files. So have you watched it recently then? Any other episodes of the X-Files, or is it? I mean, are you quite familiar with the show?
I always do like a recap every so often. If I ever just see it that it's streaming, it's back streaming somewhere, I think I'll have another flick through again. I think I've probably seen it about 4 times.
Have you? What, all the way through?
Yeah. I haven't seen any of the newest ones when it came back.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd enjoy it, so I gave you a wide berth.
So you didn't do Robert Patrick and all that vibe, or are you talking about the new the really new ones.
The new.
Yes, no, I've not made it to those. Would you describe yourself as are you susceptible to the paranormal, do you think? Are you like open-minded about that sort of thing, or you're just like, no, we're here, this is it, and this is what we can control, and there's nothing else?
I'm open-minded in the fact that I enjoy that there are people out there that are interested in, like, I like the fact that there's flat earthers. I don't believe in it, but I enjoy the fact that they're asking questions. But they should get the answer pretty quickly that it's not flat. But, But the whole extraterrestrial thing, I when I was younger, I used to think, but why all these people? If it's not real, then there's a lot of people lying that they've seen this stuff, and it caught on to me that it's all happening in America because America doesn't have any history, and it was just an easy way to make tourist spots out of these places that've got no tourism. So, like Roswell, the whole place is just tourism for the alien crash, which they've already admitted that it wasn't a crash, that it was a weather balloon, and that they even have those balloons now. So,
that's fact then, is it? Because I sort of dabble with UFO news. I try and keep up, and I never really got to the bottom what Obama was, all the stuff he released.
The counter argument is that they featured it in Independence Day, so you've got that. So
yeah, right.
You know when we're in Roswell, New Mexico.
Yeah, or is it all hiding in plain sight? I don't know. Interesting. Are you, aside from True Detective, are you watching anything else at the minute that you're enjoying?
They're making a sequel of 28 Days Later, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I've not read. Is it Danny Boyle again?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that'd be good. No, I like those two. I like those two films. I'm always a bit on the fence about zombies. I sort of tolerated Last of Us. That was zombie-ish, but
oh, you didn't like that?
No, I did like it. I did. I sort of liked that they run in that. I can't get on with the run. Having said that, 28 Days Later, running zombies, aren't they? But or the infected or whatever we're calling them. But I like the shamblers. I like the sort of element of the zombie where it's like it's just going to get you. There's just like sheer numbers are just going to overwhelm you, and you can't do anything. It's just moving at its own speed, and it's going to get you at some point. I find that idea both quite quaint and also quite scary. So, fair play to the zombie. It's the most blue collar of the supernatural creatures, isn't it? Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Believe Me is written and edited by me, Chris Boyd, with production support from Steve Marshall. The music is by Johnny Boyle, and our logo is by Russ Brown. See you out there next time.